Yes. Welcome to Riverside.
Well, if anyone gets anything, I live in New York. I have too much stuff. Just tell me. I will bring it down from Washington Heights to the launch party. So
You
hit me
are a
up.
gem. Thank you.
I got you.
I
We
love
are
it.
officially live.
Okay.
I would wait, maybe chat for 3 more minutes, because we're gonna post the links to the video in all of the places so that everyone has an opportunity to come and join, and then get into the fun of the panel. Perfect. Okay.
Great.
Yay!
But we are live, so don't say anything cancelable. Got it.
Be aware. Tamp it
I'm
down.
going to drink water for the next 3 minutes.
Also, it's a cozy panel, so no one come in with too much energy. Everyone needs to keep it here. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that.
I don't think I can.
I was say, Deston, tap it down. I love it.
All right.
Yay.
Well, the 3-year-old is yelling for mommy. I locked the door. If you hear banging, don't be concerned.
Oh no! The agony.
People say 2s are hard. They are lying. 2 are
That's what I
fucking
hear.
fine. 3 is a whole nother story.
Yes.
4-year-old. Don't tell me that. I'm hoping it's over by 4. Don't say that. Oh, we don't have a car. We live in New York City, but it's a good idea.
Woohoo! This is so fun. I give
He just loves me too much, you know? It's just it is what it
so
is.
kind.
So sweet.
What a good experience.
When my husband was at work for an hour this morning, I didn't hear any "Where's Daddy" wails. I'm just saying. That's all.
He has a favorite.
Okay, Shira, we're live.
That's okay. The world needs to know.
Hi guys. Hello everyone.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bindery panel at Hearthcon, Publishing Cozy Fantasy panel, all about Bindery, which we're going to talk about a ton, and you're going to learn a lot about. But I am here just to help keep the conversation flowing. My name is Shira Shindell, and I am Bindery Publishing's Acquisitions Director. I've got a very sweet little girl in the background who misses me, who is not feeling cozy, suffice to say. But we'll teach her as time goes on. Meanwhile, in my little cocoon, I've got my little Dandelion Wishes candle lit, and I've got my little decaf hot cinnamon tea going, and a confession that I am actually quite a newcomer to the cozy fantasy space, and that I am hook, line, and sinker, y'all. You've got me. This is the easiest sell in the whole universe. As soon as I started Kay's book, I was like, oh, I always belonged here. This makes perfect sense. So thank you, Kay. And as the acquisitions director for Bindery, it is my absolute honor to be the one who is helping these wonderful tastemakers, including Jason and Meg, who are here with us tonight, and a whole bunch others, to find and then just kind of lock in these amazing deals that allow us to bring the books to life. And so without further ado, it's my absolute honor to introduce the panelists that are here with us tonight. I'm going to let each of you introduce yourselves, unless you really want me to do it, because you can tell us a lot more about yourself than I can. But with us tonight, we have Meg Hood of Meg's Tea Room. We have Jason Headley of Ezeekat Press. And Ezeekat at Ezeekat. Kay Sinclair, the author of House of Frank, which comes out in 2 days, and we're all ridiculously excited. And Deston Munden, the future Bindery author, and more to say about that. An existing author of other works in his own regard that we can also hear about tonight. May I ask each of you, I'll throw it over to you, Meg, would you mind giving us just a few sentences about yourself for those who may not already know you?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Meg. My own socials, I'm Meg's Tea Room. As you can see, I do a little tea room kind of cosplay tavern style video. That's what my content is, and I just welcome you into the tea room and give you a warm drink, and then talk about cozy fantasies, why we're all here today. And I just, fell in love with this genre really, really hard when I read Legends and Lattes, and from then on, it just became my entire personality. I'm so happy to be here. Yeah, and I'm so grateful to be here with Bindery. This is awesome. Yeah.
Jason, would you go next?
Yeah. Hello, my name is Jason. I go by Ezeekat on the internet. I am a full-time content creator. I've been doing content. I'm making content on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube for about 4 years now, which is wild. And I run Ezeekat Press through Bindery. And our first book that we are publishing is House of Frank by Kay Sinclair, which, as Shira mentioned, comes out in 2 days, which is wild. And a lot of people have already gotten their copies and are already reading it. And that's pretty crazy, and it's really amazing as well. So, yeah.
Kay, you're up.
Okay. Hi, my name is Kay Sinclair. I've always been a writer ever since I was young. I'm a lover of storytelling and all things cozy and just atmospheric. And I am really happy to be working with Bindery, and I'm excited that my book is coming out in 2 days.
Yay!
And Deston, who are you?
Hello, I'm Deston. I write fantasy books, and I am the future acquisition of recipes for unexpected afterlife. I'm like super excited. I've written other fantasy books that's more epic fantasy, such as my books tavern, and I've written sci-fi such as Dust Mountain Blues. But the cozy fantasy genre is my kind of like my new step in the direction. So I can't wait to share this with you.
Yay!
Yay!
So exciting.
And now that everybody on the panel has said the word Bindery, and I'm sure at least a few of you out there are saying, like, you all seem great. What the heck is Bindery? Bindery is an absolutely amazing, if I can be objective about it, brand new publisher for whom I work and love working for, that is taking traditional publishing and a little bit turning it on its side. We are still very much a publisher that are putting out beautiful, incredibly crafted, well-edited, beautifully designed books to the general public anywhere that you might find books. And at the same time, we're doing things a little bit differently. And so the primary way in which we're doing that is, rather than imprints under the publishing house, kind of the departments that might be separated by genre or interest, we have these incredible tastemakers who already have shown the world what they love, who they are, and what books they're going to champion, and now are able to do that for the works that they themselves select and bring out to the world. And so Meg and Jason are two examples, and they get to tell us what they are excited to acquire, and then it's my job in part to go out and tell all the people that are looking for those books and sending them to all different publishers, ignore everybody else and send them to me, because I have the people who want to acquire them and shout from the rooftops that they have the next amazing cozy fantasy book. And then, of course, as part of the publication promotion and marketing process, their communities get to be an active piece of that from day one, from the very beginning. So Meg and Jason, I'm throwing it over to you. Can you tell us each a little bit about, first of all, what brought you to Bindery, why you're excited to be Bindery tastemakers and publishers yourselves, and then also, of course, the experience of your first acquisitions with Bindery. Jason, would you get us started, please?
Oh, okay. What brought me to Bindery? So I think Matt had sent me an email about it, and I thought the email sounded super suspicious, so I ignored it at first. And then my friend Kevin, who had been talking to Matt before that, reached out to me, and he's like, "No, you need to sit down and talk with them, because this is really, really cool. You need to hear this out." So I had a meeting with Matt and Meg and talked to them about it, and it just was such an amazing idea. I mean, essentially, it was, Bindery, to me, when I think about it, is sort of like taking the idea of Patreon, but taking part of those subscriptions and part of that subscriber community and taking that money and being able to use it to basically publish books and choose the books, that we want to see out in the world. And then we get to champion them, right? So we get to pick books that we absolutely love and adore. And then we get to shout about them for how long have I been shouting about House of Frank at this point? Almost a year, right? Or maybe less than that, but it feels like a year because it's been such a wild ride. But I think that's what's really cool is we get to, as people who are part of these bookish communities, really, I think everybody who is part of an online bookish community has said like, man, I wish I could pick the books that get to be published, right? I wish I had a say in this. And now we do, which is really cool. So not only do we get to help pick the books, we have a big part in the cover design. We have a big part in how the book is being marketed and talked about on the internet. And we get to help bring these books to life, which I think is pretty amazing. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's kind of a dream come true as a creator. For the same reasons that Jason said, it's something that I never would have even dreamed would be possible as like something that we would have access to. And so when I first heard about it and saw Jason and Zoran and the original 4 that are publishing this week, I watched it all going down and I was so intrigued because just the thought of being able to connect with these authors that we love so much and we champion all the time and take it from just admiring, their work to helping, uplift it to this extent and to help market it and to help all of the other aspects of it, that just to be so deeply involved with the editing process and the whole thing, I was just fascinated. I couldn't think of a more rewarding experience. And so when it was offered to me also by Matt, it was a very easy yes. And then to go through the actual publishing process that we've been going through for the past, this whole year, trying to find the right book for cozy fantasy proved to be a little tougher than I thought it would be. And it's a newer genre, frankly. So, this is the first Cozy Con, so a lot of what I was receiving didn't necessarily fit perfectly with what I was looking for until I saw Deston's work. And then when I read what Deston wrote, I was like, this is what I've been waiting for. This is how I've been wanting to feel. It made me cry multiple times. It was just one of those stories that felt very, very special. And then meeting Deston, I was like, oh no, this just, it felt connected from day one. And so it's been a really, really, again, already rewarding, but also just like really special experience and a very unusual experience that I think is really cool for both the tastemaker and the author. But I'm excited to hear just from the authors, even y'all's experience too, because I'm only on this side.
Yes, Kay and Deston, can you tell us what it has felt like coming into the Bindery family as some of our first authors and what made you feel like this was going to be the right publishing home for you? Kay, would you get us started?
Sure. Well, I had self-published a collection of short stories with my sister before, so I was still pretty new to like the whole publishing process. But when I learned about Bindery and what they were doing, I thought that it was such a neat idea to use social media and people who are actually talking about books to make the books and get other authors on who normally wouldn't be. I feel like working with Bindery, they have been a lot different than what I expected a publisher to be. I felt like included in decisions and it just felt very welcoming. Like I didn't have an agent at the time, so I had a lot of questions. I would email all the time, and I'm sure Matt and Megan was kind of getting at me.
No.
But I mean, it was new to me, so like I wanted to make sure that like whatever this was, it wasn't suspicious, like Jason said. But when I found out that these were like very earnest people who really wanted to bring people on and to create a community like of books and being like a different publisher than like what we would normally see, I really like working with them.
Thank you, Kay. And Deston, you're still at the beginning of this journey, but what drew you to choose to bring your work to the world through Bindery or with Bindery?
interestingly enough, another tastemaker, Michael Lamore, was the one that like got me introduced me first to it, and he was like, "I want you to try to submit this book to Meg. Meg will love this book. I need you to do this." So he bullied me, as, as Michael does.
Yep.
I love Michael.
He does. He tends to bully us into good things.
Yeah.
And I didn't know much about it. And as I'm going through this process, it's probably one of the best processes I've ever had to deal with. Because, like, there's so much things that as a self-published author had to deal with. And to have a team to work with you and talk with you and include you. I think that's the biggest part, is that in most publishing, they don't include you. Really. It's like you gotta like listen to what they say. And I remember like talking with Shira and one of the editors not too long ago, and he was like, "Remember, this is your story, and we don't want you to, we don't want we're visitors here." And I was like, that just spoke the difference to like my experience with a lot of things going into publishing. So I'm excited going forward. I'm trying not to get emotional.
Same. We cry a lot, Deston and I. It's the
Like,
best.
I'm like, I'm glad I belong here.
And the rest of us are here for it. And I think that makes me think of a metaphor of like the publisher does not take something and bring it to someone else. It is meant to like help lift you to bring it to that next stage. And so I'm so thrilled to hear about these experiences, because it's absolutely what is intended. And I also want to acknowledge that healthy dose of skepticism is appropriate when something brand new comes out of the woodwork that sounds super different than how things have been done before, you know? And I think that it is our job and my position to continue to prove that to new folks who come into the fold. And thank you to everyone here for helping us do that and spreading the word. I'd love to take a step back now and ask each of you about how you found, we talked about how you found Bindery. How did you find Cozy Fantasy? How did this come and come to be so important to you? I'm curious, wrapped up in that question, if I may, to ask also not only why you think it's important to you, but why do you think that it's been speaking to so many other people in this particular moment? Why has this become of the moment?
I'm happy to go first. Wow. So I was reading a lot of when I first started my content, a lot of the top 20 books, mainly because I was just kind of throwing stuff at the wind at that point, trying to figure out what I am online and who I am. I didn't know even what books. I was just starting to get back into reading, so I was reading what's popular. And I remember one day I saw someone's video. I wish so badly I could remember and give credit to this person, but someone put a video out about Legends and Lattes, and they were picking on it. They were making fun of it, actually, and they didn't enjoy the story. But when I saw the cover, I thought, that looks hilarious. That looks like something I would love. It looks, because it didn't, that cover at the time was very, very unique, or it felt unique, at least to me, like separated from what I had been reading. And so I got the audiobook. Thank God. I got the audiobook and I listened to it in one day. I could not stop. And I was like, this is the type of story I have been waiting for. I've never read anything like this. It reminds me of my childhood and what made me fall in love with fantasy and magic. And also I need this right now. It was something I needed. And so I did a quick reaction video, and I said, I want more books like this. Does anyone have any suggestions? And that was one of my first kind of viral videos, where I figured out everybody in the comments was also looking for the same thing. And so it became this group project where we all just started trying to find all of these books that felt similar, and it grew and grew and grew into obviously what it's become. But I do think, as far as the timeliness of it, you know, it hit me right after we were coming out of COVID, as all of us, you know, it hit all of us at the same time. And so to see the genre grow right out of that, I don't think that's by accident. I think we all went through something very horrific and unprecedented. But I do think that this type of story is something that we hadn't seen in traditional fantasy for a long time, or at least not this popularized. It was still being done, but it wasn't getting this much virality. And so I think just the moment desperately called for it. There was so much tragedy. So many people were scared. So many people were getting more triggered and activated by these huge things. So to have a story that felt soft and gentle, and then you knew when you entered into it, it's going to end okay, or I'm going to feel some type of healing. It felt safe and really unusual at the time. And so I think we all kind of clung to that, and we are refusing to let it go, because it's not just for that time. It gets more and more, to me, pertinent and becomes more and more valuable the more years pass.
I agree.
Yeah, I think I came to cozy fantasy books definitely through Legends and Lattes as well, was my first. But I think my love of cozy stories really started in the video game space with things like Stardew Valley, and earlier than that, Animal Crossing. I think the idea of if you didn't know, I'm someone who gets stressed very easily. And I also put way too many things on my plate to make myself stressed. So finding games, like finding video games that I could play that were very, very relaxed, and there weren't punishments for messing up. There wasn't like death. There wasn't any of that. Like, I remember my first one was the first Animal Crossing game. Was such a revelation. Like, oh my gosh, I can just play this and enjoy and relax, and it's so lovely and it's so peaceful.
Yeah.
And so when I found cozy fantasy, it was sort of like finding what I loved in those video games, but then finding it in books, which was really exciting. And I think, even to that end, I always say I love reading middle grade books, because they have a lot of them have that same like whimsical, lower stakes, it's going to be okay in the end kind of stories. And so I think like Legends and Lattes was revolutionary in that it was a book for adults that was about adults, but it had that same safety net that, stuff like middle grade fantasy, or even, stuff like these video games that I was playing had, where it just had this nice calming, like, hey, while you play this, you're going to be okay. You're not going to fall off that cliff for a little bit. You're going to be all right. Like, you're going to be, and that was just a really lovely place to be. And like Meg said, I think the world is a mess. It continues to be a mess. If you turn on the news, and it's very, there's very little good news, I find. And so I think cozy books are a nice escape, right? We talk about escapism all the time in literature, and I think when you really want to escape, you want to escape to somewhere where you feel safe, where you feel like you're going to heal through it. And so I think cozy literature has really helped in that way for a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Same thing with me. I kind of found cozy fantasy like around 2020 when, COVID and the pandemic was happening. I always loved like Studio Ghibli and watching those movies, and just it's always so whimsical. And I read House Moving Castle, and I was like, I want to be here.
Yes.
I love the atmosphere here. I love how he was my first like book boyfriend. But then I read House in the Cerulean Sea, and I realized that there was more books like that out there. And also being a writer, it just kind of inspired me to kind of play in this genre a little bit, which eventually it turned into House of Frank.
Love that.
That's so nice. I was much the same way. Like, I was more like Jason. I was more into the video game cozy at first, because I'm a huge fan of Stardew Valley, and then I read Legends and Lattes, and I was like, oh, this is a thing. And I remember reading Cursed Cocktails and Can't Spell Treason Without Tea, like almost back to back with it. So I read that whole week with just the cozy fantasy, and I was like, I couldn't get it out of my head that I want to write something like this. And I've always been more of a person that like I like having happy endings. I know that's not a thing that a lot of people are into nowadays, but even my stories that aren't cozy fantasy has happy endings because I feel like people need them,
Yeah.
and like we need them as like a society because things are so stressful. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I just want people to know that at the end of the day, no matter what you go through, it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
And I think some people need to hear that. And I think that's why cozy fantasy has gotten so popular because we've gone through a lot already, and we're like, we need to know that it's okay. And so that's like what I want to bring to the world is like have something that like people can go and be like, yeah, this might be intense for a little bit, but you can read it and be like, yeah, I know I can pick this up and not be like in depression for 3 years.
Yeah.
Oof, I love all those answers so much. I'm like watching my shoulders rise as we talk about anxiety and then reminding myself, like my own little yoga teacher, to put them down, you know? And actually, I'm curious if anyone can speak to how discovering and diving into this genre has maybe bled into the rest of your non-reading life. Has this changed your approach to other pieces of your life at all?
This is a Meg question.
Yeah.
I'm like, everyone looks at me like,
How has this affected? I'm gonna be honest. It's affected everything. Everything changed. My whole. When I say it became my full personality, I truly mean that. It just became a way of life. I think because I realized, oh, life can be small, and that's okay. What? I was raised a specific way where I think dreaming big was a huge thing, and it's still a huge thing in my spirit. I will always dream big. That's who I am, and that's who we are meant to be as humans. But there was such a emphasis on dreaming big means life. It has to look big for it to be worthy or to be a successful life. It has to be up here, and to read these stories and be reminded, no, 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 the goodness, the juice, the like beauty of life, the best pieces of life are in the small things. They're in the mundane. They're in just the connections more than anything than we have, and they're in the kindness. And I think reading these books has, I mean, I'm trying to be a better person every day, and I fail every day, but it does help remind me like that it's possible, and that I can choose a different way of speaking to someone, or a different. I can be more considerate, and I don't know. It just, yeah, I think they're just good for my soul, and they're just good for the soul, and they've affected everything for me. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it also bleeds into like just being grateful for life too,
Yes.
and just like
Yeah.
appreciating every moment for basically what it is. I feel like in recent times people started to like romanticize their life, but I think it just means being grateful with what you have and enjoying those small moments.
like exactly like those small wins like kind of build up to like even larger things.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the time we didn't really know how much life has stressed us out until we read a cozy fantasy and you'd be like,
Yeah.
oh, this is how it is to be like calm and watch this drinking tea at a bookstore. Like oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like we could do that. Like I could do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it kind of reminds you of those like small things and those small like pieces of like gratefulness
Yeah.
can get you through life. And I know one big thing that I've started doing with like getting into cozy fantasy is like I've been appreciating the small things like cooking. Cooking has become like huge to me now, and I've always kind of enjoyed it because like I was a huge Redwall fan. So I wanted to have I want to make bread like that.
Yeah.
That sounds nice. So that's and you can do that. You can I'm like, what's stopping you from buying bread supplies?
Nothing, Deston. Make bread.
So, I it's enjoyable, and I think the cozy cozy fantasy genre has kind of that effect on people.
Yeah.
I think it's surprising that I like cozy stories so much, because I am not a cozy person. I don't think I am really. I think reading cozy books and playing cozy video games and board games is like a way for me to take a break. I think it's almost like subliminally I need it, because most of the time I am doing 20 different projects, and getting me to sit down at a table and drink a cup of tea and just enjoy the day. That sounds really challenging, because the whole time I'll be thinking about my to-do list and the things I need to get done. So I think that these cozy stories have sort of provided me almost like an excuse to take a break, which I think is good, because I'm really bad at taking breaks. And so I think I don't know that cozy stories and games have branched out into my life, but I think they are an important part of my life, because they do encourage me to take a moment to just okay, because I am someone who's always doing 20 million things and always has a crazy to-do list, and so I think it's nice to have a type of story and a type of thing that causes me to pause for a little bit.
Yeah. I know. In therapy recently, I was asked, okay, what is your definition of success right now? What does that feel like? And I know what my answer would have been probably 2 or 3 years ago. And my answer immediately out of my mouth came peace. Peace feels like success. And I know for a fact that comes from these stories and just the effect that they've had on my heart, and what feels more valuable now than what used to feel valuable. Yeah.
Preach, Meg, preach.
That one did.
Cool.
I so appreciate the direction that all of your answers went, because I think it's worth addressing the irony of talking about books with relatively low stakes or low ambitions, right? Which is not real, when I'm talking to people who have all had huge successes recently and will continue to see such exciting, huge successes. And at the same time, what I think I'm hearing is that embracing the cozy ideology, if that's not too lofty a word, maybe allows us to shoot for something scary and difficult, but knowing that even if we don't reach it all the way, we can still have a soft landing, and we can be our own soft landing. And oh man, I needed to hear that. So thank you all for that. That was really awesome. I'm curious to learn a little bit more about the publication process itself, and what maybe felt different to you. This might feel specific to the cozy book, and it probably won't. It'll probably just be in general what it feels like to publish a book. Each of you are doing this for the first time from a slightly different angle. What surprised you? What was different than what you thought it was going to look like, or what was exactly the way you thought it was going to be and you were thrilled to see that?
Publishing books is you might not know this, but publishing books is actually a lot of work. And I don't think I was fully prepared for that. Up front, I think in my head, I was just like, oh yeah, we read some little books, and we pick one, and pretty soon it's in a bookstore. Boo. But no, it's actually a lot. And, I always tell people, I have people ask me a lot, that are considering reaching out to be part of Bindery. And I think one of the first things I always tell them is it's really super rewarding, but it's also really a lot more work than you probably imagine it's going to be, because we're as tastemakers, we're part of the whole process, right? We're part of the cover process. We're selecting books. I mean, I just selected my third acquisition, and I had over 100 queries to choose from, which meant I had to read through all of those queries to find a book that I loved within that, right? And that takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of work. And it's really cool when you find that one that you love, but it takes a while to get there, right? And we're talking about these books a lot. I think from the moment that you pick that book is really exciting, right? But then it's almost a year before that book is in stores, and you kind of have to maintain, like, you really have to pick something you love because you have to maintain that excitement for a really long time. I think though it is a ton of work, though it's so rewarding. Like, being able to work with Kay this past year has been incredible. Being able to like talk about House of Frank so much has been incredible. Being able to see this book just come to life, being able to now see like every day I'm seeing mentions on Instagram and TikTok of people who are reading it and loving it. Oh, and some of them are reading it and just sobbing, and that's the best.
Yeah.
I just love it so much. Every time they make a crying video, I'm like, yes, which is maybe not the right reaction. But I think that it's been an incredible process, and I think it really has made me more appreciative of the books that are in stores, because I'm like, wow, this went through a lot. And I think about like the insane, I mean, Kay, I'm sure you'll speak more to this, but the insane amount of editing and work that goes into getting the book ready, because really, I mean, you had the book was ready to send out to people to read and blurb like months and months and months ago, which means that you went through a ton of edits before we even got there.
Yes.
Which how did you sleep? How did you even sleep?
Oh, I didn't at all. I probably read that story like 30 times, and by the 31st time, I'm like, I'm done. I'm done with this.
Don't scare Deston.
You're like, that's enough, Frank.
It's great. It's a wonderful.
Nobody cares about your house,
dear.
Frank.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, the process of editing is probably the most stressful one. I feel like I didn't really get that many like setbacks. Like, I don't know what the like official term is, but having to go through edits and like be alert in reading over everything and making sure that like I'm making sense and I'm not just like skimming over something because like, you know, I wrote it, so I already know what's going to come next, but like actually having to hone in, like that's like a different experience. I feel like before when I sent it to Jason when they first put out the pitch fest contest, I did my own editing and like trying to make it as best as possible for Jason, for him to read, and then to realize that I would have to go through like another 5 or 6 rounds after that. I was like, oh god. But it worked out fine, and I'm so happy that I did it because it reads so much better now, of course, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the book was pretty fantastic. I mean, I've told the story many a time, but the first time that I read House of Frank, I stalked Kay online, and I found that she had a playlist for the book, which I'm sure she made just for herself to write it. And I put the playlist on, and I listened to it, and I read House of Frank cover to cover in a single night, and was sobbing the entire time. And the second I finished it, I mean, I read the last word and went right to my computer and I was like, this is the one. Like, this is the book. But even that, reading it that first time, I thought it was brilliant. And then just seeing how it's come together after these rounds of edits, like, I didn't think it could get more brilliant, and yet somehow it has. And I think that's really the magic of all of this. It's just like watching it come to life in that way is really, really, really rewarding, and pretty amazing, actually.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds scary, but also
No, it's
really
not
like,
scary. It's not scary.
It's a little scary.
It's a little
I know
scary.
it's scary, but like it's not scary, but also is scary, but also not. Like,
Because we're in the
I am,
beginning
like,
stages. Yeah.
yeah, like I'm really excited to going back through it because I've already done some editing for Meg. Meg was like, "Hey, I want to see this, this, and this in the
Yeah.
story," and I was
Yeah.
like, "Bet." And it's
And you
gonna
did
be
it.
nice to have like some feedback. Like, I'm actually really excited about feedback. I'm one of the people that like love to like see improvement, especially in myself. And to have someone to look at it with such like intensity and love, it's just really nice to me. Like, it's like, you like my story as much as I like my story. So like that is what like I'm most looking forward to in this whole process. Like, yes, it's gonna probably keep me up at night because everything does. But that is gonna be well worth it.
Yeah, I think the thing that surprised me the most of this whole process is, and we're just in the beginning, but again, I'll agree, the editing, because I feel like I have a whole new empathy for authors that walk through the publishing process and have to go through the editing piece of it, because even just being in that introduction meeting where it was like, here's what it's going to be like, to sit there and be like, oh my goodness, it's the ego. Like you have to drop your ego completely as an author, and you have to take this thing that you love, this baby that you created, and you have to go, okay, we don't know, I have so much more respect for authors, and it gives me a ton more empathy for any book that's written. I don't do negative reviews very often, and now I really don't want to do them as much anymore, just because like so much work. It's so much work. I feel so sorry for them. Whew. But man, it comes out beautiful. I can't wait to see what's gonna be blooming out of this story in a year. I can't wait. It's gonna be amazing.
Two things I do think are worth noting that have been brought up in the course of these answers. One is the length of time of a year. In a more traditional publishing setting, it usually takes way more than a year.
Yeah.
Bindery goes like so much faster than pick your favorite Big Five publisher or whomever, which I think is a wonderful thing, and I think allows everybody to sort of move their journey along faster, allows the book to get to readers faster. And I also, as both a career-long publishing industry person and an aspiring kidlit writer, one of these days I'll sit my butt in the chair and actually write something. I think that the mark to me of a professional author is that they both have a lot of conviction about what their story is and where their lines are, and at the same time are grateful for feedback. And I certainly have seen that in the folks I've worked with through Bindery, that you understand that it's wow, what a gift to have someone take your work seriously enough to have ideas to grow it, right? Wow, that's just, it's hard. It's so much work to then actually figure out, okay, I get what you're saying. How do I implement that? And I think it's incredibly powerful. And I hope that has been the way it was felt here.
Yeah, I feel like I really appreciate a good editor who can communicate and pick out the things that could be strengthened, instead of just being like, I don't like this, take this away, but like having a open dialogue and being like, why doesn't this work? How can we make it work? And if it doesn't, then what's something else that we can add? I enjoyed that with my editor, at least.
I'm so happy to hear that. Deston will have the same, I guarantee.
Yeah.
I know.
We have the same editor, actually. Yeah, it's exciting. We have you guys. Yeah.
I'm curious to know also, we've talked a bunch, and I'm sure all day in this conference, you've talked a lot about where Cozy Fantasy is today. As two of the people on the panel will actually be choosing what it is a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, where is this genre going? What are we going to see coming later on? And as two writers who I'm sure are already thinking about your next books, where are we going to see this going?
I mean, I think both Jason and I will probably say the same thing because we've talked about this a few times before, and we'd love to see more diversity in the genre and more representation. This year has been actually an incredible year for Cozy Fantasy, and starting to see it more and more because when it started, it did feel very specific. And now we've just been blooming and blooming and blooming, and it's been really lovely to see. I think, and I've already started to see this, I think we have Cozy Fantasy as the subgenre already, but I'm thinking they're going to break into even more distinct subgenres. You look at authors like Kimberly Lemming, who are doing hilarious, silly but more erotic, and more just more romance. And then you see everyone's doing it differently, and I think there's going to be more just more creativity within the genre. We're going to break out of the cafe, and we're going to go other places. And I think that's very, very exciting. This year has been really exciting for that. And I'm very excited to see now that publishers are kind of taking the genre, or are starting to take the genre a lot more seriously, I'm very excited to see what we get in the future.
Yeah, I mean, even House of Frank, I think, is a departure for cozy books,
Yes.
right? Because it is. I don't think the first thing you
Darker.
think about. Well, for the first thing that I think most people don't think about when they think about cozy is like a story about grief and healing.
Yeah. Yeah.
To me, that was
Needed, though.
super cozy. Like the first time I
Yeah.
read it, it felt so cozy, and it felt. I've described House of Frank as, you know, if cozy literature makes you feel like a warm hug, House of Frank makes you feel like a warm hug on the day when you need it the most.
Yes.
And
Yes.
like Kay's reaction. And I think I'll never forget like the first time, and I think it might have been Meg who was like, "Is this cozy?" And I was like, "Yes, it's so cozy." But you know, there are going to be people that read House of Frank and they're going to maybe feel a little more stressed because it deals more with grief. But for me, it was like so needed. Like I felt so healed after reading it. And I think to your point, that's what we're going to see people do with cozy. They're going to take cozy and they're going to expand it in the way that is cozy to them and the way that is healing to them, whether that be adding comedy to it, adding spice to it, adding sadness to it, you know, like things like that. We're going to see all those variations, and that also comes from more diversity in the genre as well, which is just so exciting, because I got to be honest, that first year of cozy fantasy was real white. So I'm really glad to see.
Yes.
I wasn't going to say nothing, but
no, it was tough.
It was a lovely year, but
fighting for everyone.
Oh, it was like, ooh, there's too much salt in this. So it's good that we're getting...
Or not enough.
Yeah, right. There's not enough salt.
Right, not enough.
Yeah, that's a better description. Yeah. We just need more of that. And I think it's great to see more and more diversity in this genre. And I'm sure as we get more diverse voices in the genre, we're going to see more diverse takes on cozy, which I think is really, really exciting.
Yeah, and I think too, even with Deston, when I was choosing Deston's book, I had that thought as I was like, is this cozy or is it not cozy? Because there is a lot of action in it. But I thought I had the same thought where I was like, look, at the end of the day, I feel like we do need some expansion. I want to see different things happen. And there's a lot of people who I've seen this take all the time where they don't want to read cozy fantasy because nothing happens. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, here you go. Recipes for an unexpected afterlife. Get ready. There's squirrels. It's going to be a good time. We got a lot of knives.
I wanted to bring into my book is that I'm a manga reader. I read a lot of anime. I watch a lot of anime. So weirdly enough, sometimes action is comforting to me. Like My Hero Academia, they do a lot of healing through action. And talking through their things. And that is something that I wanted to bring into the cozy genre. Because I'm like, that is something that they know. Like me and Meg talk about one of our favorite scenes. No spoilers. But one of our favorite scenes is a fight scene.
Yeah.
And it's probably the most healing that one of the characters does.
Yeah, that's when I cried. It was they were mid-fight and I started crying. And that's when I was like, oh, this is different. This is special. Because why am I feeling so cozy in a full-on axe throw situation where they're about to kill each other? This should not be how I feel. Yeah, so that's what I think we mean by expansion. It's just taking things that are traditional, maybe in a more epic way, or other types of media, and bringing them in and making them fit for what feels cozy, like Jason said, to this specific author and what helps this author heal. And so many people are going to connect to that, and it's just going to make it even more rich and full genre to read. It'll be great. I'm so excited about it.
I'm excited to read this book. You said squirrels? Oh my god.
Yeah, they have little squirrel waiters. They're real cute.
It's so cute.
I know. We're trying to find a squirrel for promotion. I want to train one. That's my goal.
That's in the works.
Yeah, we talked to it. We'll see.
That's so funny.
We are approaching the time for open-ended conversation and questions both from the audience and honestly from the panel. If any of you have questions for each other or things that you wanted to make sure got talked about tonight, I'd love to hear them. And if not, I'll start addressing some of the ones that I'm seeing in the chat.
Can I hear a little bit more about Deston's book?
Yeah. Give us a
Okay.
rundown, Deston.
Recipes for an Unexpected Afterlife is kind of like a high fantasy, cozy fantasy novel set in a city that is undead. It's an undead city, and it follows a retired undead Death Knight who was kind of like the foundation of the city, and he gets kind of expelled, for lack of a better term, from his duties thanks to his friend the Duchess. And she's like, okay, go live your life now. And he's like, what? I'm kind of dead. I don't know what to do. She's like, you gonna have to figure it out. And basically it kind of built on you kind of reinventing who you are after you think you lost that person. Like you think that when you think you have everything figured out and you think your life is one way, and then things just change. That is why I was in love with the title, because me and Meg will talk about the title and she used the word unexpected, and that was perfect. That was like the perfect thing to it, because the main character, Rock Gore, has to deal with so much unexpected things going into this afterlife, and it's nice. It's good. It's a nice, warming experience, and it talks about things of family and food, and that's how I've always connected with people. I've always connected people with food and like learning about what they like and what they dislike, and family recipes. And I wanted to that's how I connect with people, and that is a big thing in the book. So I hope y'all enjoy it. We got a year out, but
Yeah. And there's a bit of a True Grit kind of vibe to it as far as the relationships as well. Our main character, Ratgor, meets a young orphan when he gets to this city, and they grow a very interesting partnership that becomes very, very tender as well. And that was that little character. She's a 9-year-old little girl. She got me very, very quickly, and I can't wait for the world to meet this youngin'. She's so fiery and awesome. Yeah.
She's one of my favorite characters I've ever written.
She's very cool. She's very cool.
I've got a few really awesome questions in the chat, so thank you for submitting. You're all welcome to keep going. I should also say, technically, this panel is supposed to end at 9 p.m. my time, 6 some other folks' time, but I think everyone has a little bit of flexibility, so we will certainly get to any questions that are submitted. The one that seems to be the most voted on is everyone would like to know, what is each person on the panel currently reading?
Oh.
Kay, would you start us off? What are you reading? If anything, maybe you're taking a break. That's okay too.
I was taking a break, but I'm working my way through the Bindery books. So right now I'm reading Inferno's Heir. We kind of have a little group chat with all the Bindery authors, and everyone is so supportive and loving and just giving so much good advice. So yeah, that's what I'm reading right now.
I just finished Dating and Dismemberment. It's a monster rom-com, and it's so good. It was so funny. And I enjoyed it so much.
I've heard such good things about that book.
Yeah, it's such a good book, and I think I read it in a day and a half.
I also just read through all of the Bindery books. I just finished those yesterday, and then tonight I'm going to be finishing The Wild Robot, which I'm reading because I saw the movie and I decided I needed to read the book. And it's very short, but it's very lovely.
Did you?
And then I just started reading Impossible Creatures by Catherine Lundell, and I'm only 50 pages in, and I'm already this is incredible.
Right?
Yeah, so I'm like, I'm really enjoying that. So I think I'm going to be reading that, and I also put Wicked on my Kindle to read on the plane tomorrow. We'll see how that goes.
Lovely.
So yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
I love it. Impossible Creatures was one of my favorite books I've read recently. I loved it. Give me everything by this author. Really, really good.
Yeah.
I am currently reading Lord of the Rings, so I'm in the Fellowship of the Ring right now, and it's my very first time reading it through, so that's been really fun. I'm reading a few things as well. I'm reading Clean Sweep. We're reading that with my book club, and that one's been really fun. They have a graphic audio for it that is pretty wild, and so I'm having a lot of fun with that one too. And that one is flying. That everybody seems to really enjoy that one. And then I am also going through the Bindery books. So I'm currently reading Strange Beasts, and oh my gosh, this is like the perfect fall winter read. I'm so in right now. It's got me
It's
hooked.
really
Oh,
good.
it's so good. It's so good. So I'm reading. I was hoping to get through them all before this party, and I'm not going to be able to do it because I'm ready for the audiobook to get it quicker. So yeah, unfortunately, but Strange Beasts is super good so far. I love it. Yeah.
The audios
What
will be
else, Shira?
available.
Yeah. Can't wait.
Did Deston say what he's reading? Did they miss
Yeah.
it?
Dating and Dismemberment.
Sorry.
Yeah,
So-
they didn't.
Thank you. It's late here. Yes, another really great question about how to get published with Bindery. Thank you for asking. So I'm gonna answer this one and ask for folks to boost and add to it if I miss anything. If I want it to be published, how would we go about being published with Bindery? Or maybe a slightly different way to put that is how to submit to Bindery is another way to say that. So how to get published by Bindery is write the absolute best book that you can and then send it to us and get discovered by one of these beautiful tastemakers. How to do that more practically, there's a few different ways. So Bindery certainly does on the traditional level work with literary agents. And so if you are represented, you can ask your agent to submit to me directly. There is a link, they can find it. They can find me personally and find my Bindery email. But there is kind of a link through our website that's pretty easy for an agent to find. And by the way, yes, you are allowed to ask your agents, hey, I like that particular publisher. Can you put that on my sub list? I feel like sometimes folks are afraid to ask their agents for specific things. They work for you, just saying. And I've been an agent, so I'm allowed to say that. And another really awesome way, and the way that both of these beautiful writers were discovered and came to us, is that we run a pitch fest, I believe once a quarter is our intention. And we will be opening up a brand new pitch fest, I think in November. I think it's like right around the corner.
Did not know that. Oh my gosh.
I
Wasn't
No.
I get in trouble for saying that, but I'm okay with it. And I'm going to tell you why I'm okay with it, because we are ready for spring 26. It's coming, and we're going to find an amazing new set of books. Don't worry. I promise I'll help. And the cool thing, though, for writers is that it gives you a chance. It just breaks down all the barriers, right? Publishing is like this big institution that's incredibly difficult to understand, and it's that way on purpose. That's not you, right? That's not an accident. It is that way on purpose. And one of the coolest things about Bindery is that we are absolutely looking to make it more accessible in every way possible, make it more representative. And so Pitch Fest, I think, is one of the coolest ways that we do that, because we put our money where our mouth is. We've acquired a lot of books through Pitch Fest. We want to be working with talented independent writers, and then of course you can take your career wherever you want from there. So Kay mentioned earlier that Pitch Fest was something you participated in and we acquired your book, but now you're working with an agent, and that's an experience that I've seen a number of different writers choose to engage in when working with us. I will also say that if there are some folks as a part of this panel who are like, well, I was about to self-publish my book tomorrow, but Shira, will you take a look and see if this is a good fit for Bindery? You were here tonight, so yes, you can send your book to me directly. This is like a one-time only. Do not put it out to all your friends. They got to come through Pitch Fest. But if you were here tonight, I will very happily share a link. And if you just write specifically that you were a part of this festival and this conversation, I'd be thrilled to make sure that it gets to the right hands. And the other thing I just want to say about that, in consideration of being published with any publisher, including Bindery, please write an incredible pitch letter. They really matter. I'm going to stop talking for a sec because Jason and Meg, can you tell us a little bit about the pitch letters and why they matter for you?
Go ahead, Jason.
I will say of the in the last Pitch Fest, I got I think 120 submissions, and 90% of those I weeded out because of the query letter. So that's something to keep in mind. Like reading a query letter, if your query letter is not well written, I'm going to assume your book is not well written. And that sounds kind of mean, but it's also been proven true, because the first Pitch Fest, I read a little bit of I read the query letters, and then I read a little bit of every book I got. And it was without a doubt, 100%, if the pitch letter was badly written, the book was badly written. So make sure that you're really focusing on writing a great query letter, pitch letter that really represents your book and the themes and what it's going for. You know, look at other pitch letters, look at what they're doing. I think that's super, super important, because when we're getting so many submissions, that pitch letter is a huge indicator on whether or not we want to keep digging further into a book or not.
Yep. Absolutely. And you see us have like an extreme reaction to, oh, Pitch Fest is coming. And that's not because we dread it, but it is, you have to understand, we get so many of these pitches in our inbox. And so every one of the tastemakers goes through those differently. So I do know of tastemakers who do read, just like Jason used to, who do read every single book, no matter what, will read at least, the first chapter of every single submission. I'm not like that. I'm a bit shocker for Cozy, but I'm a little bit more cutthroat where it comes to, I'm like Jason, where if I read the pitch letter and it's something that I just don't connect to, or it's not well worded, then it's an instant, no, not for me. Also, another thing is if the comps feel, or if there are certain things like it's leaning so far into the cliches this is specific to Cozy Fantasy, so far into the cliches that we see all the time. If it's something we see all the time, we're looking to publish something that we haven't seen before, or at least a variation of something we haven't seen before. So also just know it might not be the best fit. You might have a stellar book, but it might just be the wrong fit, the wrong time, and it doesn't mean you're a terrible writer. It doesn't mean anything about your experience with writing. It just might not be the best fit. That's what I keep, because it makes me feel terrible to have to say no. Oh, I feel so bad. But yeah, we're looking for the fit.
The pitch letter. Oh, I'm sorry, Meg.
No, go ahead.
The import of the pitch letter is true no matter how and where I would say you're looking to publish your book, maybe with the exception of independently publishing, although I would argue even then you need a pitch if you're going to be doing your own marketing and publicity, if you're going to be getting the word out there. So I think that this is a healthy exercise to not only do, but also research. It's a little bit like a cover letter for a job. I hate making that comparison because cringe, those are the absolute words. And I have literally designed my career around never having to write cover letters. Like I will find a way to not write them and just take that job because I hate them so much. But it's the way that you're first and foremost showing us the power of your writing, right? It's like the bite-sized version of your book. I'm going to jump right into another question, which is, are the Bindery editors full-time in-house staff or consultants, and how does that work? Awesome question. Again, I'm going to kind of give the businessy answer and then throw it over to the folks here to talk a little bit more about what that actually felt like. So no, the editors for Bindery books are not full-time in-house staff. Neither are they consultants exactly. We work with this incredible company called Girl Friday Productions. GFP was one of the first to really enter this space, this production space in the publishing industry. They have worked with pretty much every publisher under the sun, including the big 5 publishers. So this is like the little secret that no one talks about. It's that this type of outsourcing, for lack of a better word, of professional true storied editors is something that is happening across the industry rapidly. There are lots and lots of reasons for that. I think some of it has to do with the industry shrinking, a lot of layoffs, a lot of really talented editors being let go, a lot of really talented editors deciding this is not where I want to spend my full career. I can work for myself and do the same thing. A lot of the new publishers that you're seeing pop up, or Authors Republic is a good example, but there are lots of different examples. I've worked for another publisher that does the same model, are choosing to not hire editors to be full-time in-house, but rather working with freelance and independent editors or working through a company like Girl Friday. The other thing that I see as an incredible benefit of this model is that when you have in-house editors, you are limited to only publishing the books that those editors are experts in. Just because you can be a gorgeous editor for cozy fantasy does not mean you can be a gorgeous editor for that middle grade novel that Jason was talking about earlier, right? Those are different works and require different skill sets. And so by working under our model, we are nimble. We can take on a tastemaker who is super duper excited about something we have never touched before, or maybe Jason or Meg decide they're super excited about something different a year from now, and we can continue to work with them and follow their passions in that way. Or Kay decides to write something different, or Deston, and we're like, no, we need to have it, even though it's not going to be your next book, right? So we have that flexibility, and I think that's beautiful. And again, I want to emphasize that all of these editors are extremely experienced. And I'll shut up and ask, what has the experience been like, Kay in particular, maybe for you working with an editor who wasn't full-time in-house at Bindery?
Well, I mean, I don't know what the difference would be,
Right.
because when I self-published my short stories through Amazon and Ingram, I used Fiverr for like an editor to go through that. So they weren't necessarily professional, I don't think. Even though I'm sure like they showed me work that they've done. But I noticed like the difference of like working with them and then like working with someone who was a professional, who like they really knew what they were doing, what they were talking about. I am terrible with grammar. You can ask my sister. She read through House of Frank first, and she's like, "Oh God, what is going on here?" She's like, because she's more of like an editor too, and she's just like marking stuff off, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I can't think in that mode of like editing. I just write it out. So having someone who knew what they were talking about and like kind of checking me was really important.
That's a great point that you make, that the author's experience is not necessarily going to feel any different. One other thing that I have always wondered about traditional publishing is the fact that the editor is also serving other roles in the full-time in-house model. They're serving the role of like reading all the submissions, bringing them and pitching them in-house to an editorial board, like the rest of the imprint team and their editorial director. And then they're also like pitching it to marketing and publicity and negotiating with the agent and doing contracting. And it's all these variety of things. And I'm like, those are all really, really, really different skill sets. Yeah. And just because you're an amazing editor doesn't mean you're good at negotiating the contract or even dealing with the contract. And so I personally also, as someone that fills some of those roles and not all of those roles and likes doing the things that I do and not all the other things that a traditional editor has to do, I think it just makes sense in the future of publishing to divide out those roles based on skill set personally.
Yeah, and I will say, like, to what you said, both my spring 2025 book and my fall 2025 book are super different. They are not cozy in any way. And so we're able to work with different editors for each of those. And I think that's pretty amazing. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I'm looking through some more questions. Misty, would you repost any that if I missed some questions? Could I trouble you to repost them? Oh. Let me give it just one more minute. Is there a variety of genres across the tastemakers?
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even within the first round of the 4 books that are being published on Tuesday, I mean, there's a cozy fantasy. There's something that is more like action packed. There's a story that's like a mystery story, and there's something that's like a really like high idea, like an environmental fantasy. But now that we have more and more tastemakers joining the team, there are more and more people that are looking for different things and are looking for different types of stories. I mean, like I said, even I started and I was like, I'm going to do cozy fantasy. And we've done one with House of Frank, and then the next 2 books are not cozy at all. So it really comes down to just what we vibe with and what we're in the mood for and what we're searching for. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I should also say we're really open to cross genre, which is something that's kind of rare, right? We want to be outside the box. We want to publish things other people are scared to publish or don't know how to publish. I think those absolutely have a place with Bindery. Someone also asked, would an Australian writer or an international, speaking from New York City, writer be appropriate to publish with Bindery? Absolutely. We work with, at the moment, I know we absolutely have Canadian authors, but certainly not limited only to US-based
my next author is Australian. My author for my spring book is from Australia. So there you go.
Perfect.
So yeah, absolutely anyone can submit. A couple of questions asking what books qualify. Not sure it's outlined on the website. Does that mean based on genre? What books qualify? Oh, if it's posted elsewhere. Good question. Generally speaking, we want fully unpublished, new, unposted works. At the moment, I think that is a hard line, and there are lots of good reasons for that. Meg or Jason?
Yeah, that is part of the Pitch Fest. When we do Pitch Fest, that is one of the qualifiers, is that it has to be an unpublished work to be submitted.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of exciting announcements that happen, across the publication process, that if the work is already out there, we wouldn't be able to bring that excitement to those announcements. So that's a big part of it. Thank you all so much for being here. This was a pleasure. I learned a lot. I feel like I have a list of my TBR just got even longer. Not thank you for that. But I can't wait to continue the conversation, and thank you so much to everybody who attended. We hope to be reading some of your books maybe next month.
Yay! Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good night.